very good evening to you here in Istanbul. It's fantastic to be here. What a fantastic day of presentations we've had today. And I think that I am all that's standing between you and some beers this evening after hearing lots of stories about what can be the latest and greatest in the world of digital. So I hope that I managed to maintain your attention. My name is Daniel Rosen. I'm the global CEO of Joule. Joule is a full-service global agency with mobile at our heart. We've been helping brands navigate mobile since about 2005. And we're proud to count some brands like Unilever, Paramount Pictures, and AT&T as some of our clients. We're part of the WPP group, and we have offices in the US, in LA and New York, in London and Paris, in Europe, and we also have offices in Beijing and Shanghai and China, so we're global. And today I've been asked to share with you my point of view on mobile creativity and some thoughts on where we are as an industry. And while doing that, I'll also share some of the things that keep our planners, coders, and creative team on their toes when they go through their everyday working day, and also what inspires them. I've called this presentation the mobile paradox, and I don't know how well paradox translates into certainly not Turkish, but English Turkish. Paradox is a sort of implicit contradiction. It's where things don't seem to make sense. So what I'll be doing is talk about these implicit contradictions, and then talk about what these challenges are, and also what an exciting opportunity that presents for us. And you know, you could say, so what? You know, so what? Isn't just a good creative, you know, mobile, TV, outdoor, whatever it is, ultimately just good creative. And I guess one of the things I'm saying to you today is that ultimately a good creative is good creative, but if that good creative and that craftsman doesn't understand the nuances of mobile and understand how it's a very different tapestry, a very different canvas, then you're not going to get the best kind of results. So please try and bear with me. And I have three different paradoxes that I'm talking through today, which you can see in front of you at the moment. The smallest screen, but the greatest opportunity. It's the most personal, but the least personalized so far. And then finally, whilst it's probably the most cutting edge and leading channel at the moment, it's often practiced by people who are more from a more traditional end. So just to crack on, it's also worth saying that one of the things that behind this, and one of the reasons that I'm so excited to be here today, is because I think there is a whole new layer of creative talent that's actually coming through today, and they're all becoming specialists in mobile. And unfortunately, I don't think there's enough of them, but with the right knowledge, understanding, and education, I think they're going to be able to create some of the best work that we've seen. Because I'm someone who truly believes that if you were to take an inventor, and if you were to lock him in a room for a couple of weeks and tell him to create a device that's the ultimate marketing and advertising device, what he'd come back with is something that looks very much like a mobile phone. So, my first paradox, the smallest screen but the greatest opportunity. I think many of you will be aware of this Mary Meeker slide, God bless her, the poster child of our industry. And what this tells us is that the amount of time, impressions, finger taps that are in mobile are absolutely massive, but the dollars aren't following that at the moment. If you look at the column on the right, that is obviously going to change over the next few years. But it's just worth pointing out that the mobile creative work that we have today isn't getting all of the budgets. So that's why it's amazing that we have some of the great work that we do today. And I think it's also worth pointing out that mobile devices are the most personal, most intimate, most tactile of screens. And I think what this means is that we must respect permissions. And I'm not talking about opt-in, opt-out, the kind of data permissions that we talk about. Of course that's important, I'm not saying they're not. This is permissions from a creative perspective. Do we have permission to be on the screen? I think when consumers watch TV and they end up consuming TV ads, that's fine. They understand it, they realize that's the value exchange. They're expecting those ads to be there. I'm not sure that's the way on mobile yet. I think we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. But some of the most successful creative work on mobile has taken a different approach, which I'll share with you today. The best digital creative work is either entertaining or useful. And it's been much of the latter on mobile. It's safe to say that most of the best brand work has been based on utility, things that are incredibly useful, often taking what a brand or company does and just making it better using digital, and in this case, mobile. And the reason for that is probably because from a creative perspective, it's much easier to be useful again and again than it is to be entertaining again and again. It's much less risk. And often that is the decisions that are taken by brands. It's a very rational approach, but it's this application of utility to a brand. It's highly engaging, but the question is that enough? And that's one of the things that I'll be discussing today. Has anybody read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman? Anybody? Has anybody read this? One or two at the back over there. Okay, well, I can tell you, honestly, I'd highly recommend it as a book. It's very, very interesting. It starts to understand the psychology of the things that actually will initiate change from a consumer when they look at a piece of messaging. What he talks about is System 1 and System 2. What he says is that many purchase decisions are performed subconsciously using the intuitive System 1, not the rational System 2. To talk to the System 1, you need to use emotional messaging, creating connections and associations that resonate, and that's widely believed to be the kind of communication that resonates most highly. Obviously, the System 2 communication, the more rational stuff, is the kind of stuff that you'll be more familiar with, things talking about price promotion, things talking about a reason that a product's useful. Of course, there'll always be a need for that, but when you look at testing, it's not always the stuff that resonates the best. I think, I think in terms of what's working better on mobile, for now the solution is to play both channels, to play all the channels to their strengths. Give your brand a mobile purpose with utility on mobile, but never forget to tell the story of the emotional benefit. I'm about to play you a quick video of a great example of a brand that has used both. Basically, they've created, it's Barclays Bank in the UK, and they created a great app called Ping It. Has anyone here seen Ping It from Barclays in the UK? Anyone? There's one or two, I guess, the UK guys. What they've done is they've taken their existing banking product and they've used mobile to make their product better by taking a core consumer insight, activating that, solving a problem on that insight using mobile. And they then just don't do that. What they then do is use AV or TV in a way that can tell the story to make the emotional benefits of that product resonate. And here's how it goes.
Where you been, Steve? What? It's been a long time, hasn't it, Stevie boy? We've been looking for you. Is this your wife? Pretty lady, Sarah, isn't she? Look at me when I'm talking to you, Steve. Look at me. Okay. Do you remember paying for a certain pizza last week? Extra pepperoni? No, that's because you didn't. My generous employer, your mate Gary, lent you something in the region of £4.25?
Yeah, of course, sorry.
Don't touch me, Steve. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take out your phone. You are over 16, aren't you?
Yeah.
And download the app Barclays Ping It. Then you're going to type in Gary's number and send him his £4.25. All right? Good boy. Right then, I'm off. I've got a piano lesson in half an hour. Oh, and Steve, say hi to your wife for me.
I think that's a great example where they have a great app using mobile to make their product, to enhance their product, and they've made a film. And by the way, I think that film was by BBH. So congratulations to BBH for making a fantastic film. And they've used AV to bring out the emotional benefits of their utility-based product. I'm sure that kid's going to go on to be a megastar one day. And I think the key message here is that executing the big idea across channels isn't the same as executing the same idea across channels. That ideas can adapt and can be shaped from the same insight. And it's that kind of adaptation that we tend to do a lot of at Joule as a mobile agency. But I think the key thing to remember is that great marketing and advertising has always been about great insights, and I don't think that has changed. You know, we need to understand the rules of engagement on mobile to get people understand people's permissions, to understand what role mobile has the right to play. Technology is important. Behavioral data is important, but attitudes, social context, and cultural nuances are all incredibly important too, probably even more important from a creative standpoint. And as you can see from the Ping It app and the supporting film that goes with it, you know, the great insight is there. You know, it's hard to split bills and get the exact money right to give back to your mates. So the solution is they find an app to solve the problem. And then they make a film to tell the story about it. So an example of what's resonating. Our second paradox is around what's the most personal but the least personalized. And this is something that is very dear to us, and I think this really comes down to key mobile practitioner skills. I think context is possibly, well, definitely misunderstood. I think when you talk to people about context, particularly from a creative standpoint and from a technical standpoint, you'll always get different answers. There is so much more to context than just where people are. And I think that it's important to understand what it's not before you say what it is. You know, what context isn't is just about when and where people are. It's about mindsets, attitudes, and behaviors. And in terms of, if you actually break it down, you know, excuse the incredibly wordy slide here, but the fact is, there really is so much more to it. It's about the how, when, what, and why people are engaging in mobile computing, or the idea, the concept of mobility. You know, on varying devices, UIs, connectivity levels, attention spans, the different time constraints they have when they use their device. You know, all of this needs to be understood. And if you don't have a proper strategy underpinning the kind of work that you produce, it's just going to fall flat because people are consuming mobile content in so many different places. They're consuming your creative concepts in so many different places. That's why, you know, it always, you may laugh, but you don't understand how many brands will basically say that their mobile strategy is YouTube. I'm being serious. And you know, today, when we serve experiences based on device, browser, connection, location, and soon we'll be able to serve content based on emotion and intention modeling. So it's all going to change. You know, it's a very complex challenge, but you know, we're just really getting started with it. And all of this is really underpinned by having the right data. It's such a key thing. Using data and analytics well to get the right content and experience to the right audience at the right time and at the right place. There has never been a more exciting time to influence the physical world through the digital world. And mobile is at the very front of that. And what we spend a lot of time doing is understanding how the digital world is affecting the physical world through mobile. And really, we believe that the next phase of digital is going to be is going to happen in the physical world to be able to make that happen. And we're very fortunate to sit with our sister agency, Kinetic, who are the world's largest out-of-home agency, which gives us access to kind of data that a lot of people aren't privy to. So we get to understand how human traffic moves in urban environments and what's the best way that you interact with people and how to reach them. So it's a really very, very exciting space. You know, we're not quite teleporting from room to room yet, like Star Trek, but we are starting to see the first shoots of media blending across out-of-home and mobile. And by using data and technology to deliver the right audience, the right content to extend and embellish that story. This is an example using NFC that we run out of our office in LA for Paramount. It's for the latest Star Trek movie, and we ran an NFC-enabled campaign on the west coast of the US. We didn't just do that because we felt it was a good thing to do. It was based on data. You know, we only used NFC because our research showed that the kind of people who watch Star Trek, the Trekkies, they're incredibly early adopters, and they're people who like this kind of technology and more likely to take part in it. And also we only ran it in the West Coast and in airports where people would actually get a chance to do it. So we're using data, we're using context to understand where people are, why they would do it, and the kind of audience that we're reaching to make sure it's the right kind of campaign that you're running. Is NFC always the right thing to do? Definitely not. We know NFC's got a long way to go. So my final mobile paradox that I'm talking about today is the most modern and cutting-edge channel, but often practiced by the most traditional practitioners. And I think it's worth talking about Bill Birnbach, who founded the great agency DDB. I think it was actually back in 1949 that he first created it. And at the time, he revolutionized advertising by creating the advertising team, the creative team. He was the first guy to put art directors together with copywriters to form a creative team, and that was completely revolutionary. Suddenly, you had the art director talking to the guy who wrote the copy, and this was amazing. Suddenly, you had much better press ads, much better radio ads, press ads, outdoor radio ads to begin with, and that's how it works. But I guess where we're coming from, as we enter the digital age, there's different things that we need from a resourcing perspective. I mean, how many people, for example, have been in situations where the main creative decision makers on a project are not in a position to recognize the mobile opportunity? When faced with a challenge to create emotionally compelling stories through software, you need to make sure that you have the right people in the room. After you've created a solid mobile strategy, of course. And we at Joule, we think you need to have art, copy, UX, and code in the room. We think that technology and user experience has to be a key part of that decision-making process. If they're not, you're just not going to get the best work on mobile. It's something that we feel very passionate about, and it's something that we see working on a daily basis. So I thought I'd start talking about some of the creative work that has inspired us, not necessarily from the cutting-edge world of application development, which I've spent much of the last few years of my life doing, but some of the creative work that's really inspired us from the developing and emerging markets, where we do a lot of our work for Unilever as well. And this figure of 5 to 1. Even though smartphones outsold feature phones this year for the first time, there are still 5 feature phones for every smartphone in the market. So why not design for the other 80% and generate some of the most exciting creative work? As you know, many of these feature phones in developing and emerging markets, and they're really helping people who are facing very real humanitarian and social problems. This figure just really blew me away, that 800 million of the 1.1 billion people in the world who earn less than $1 a day make it their primary living from small farms. Take that stat as an example. what a great opportunity to design solutions for some of the world's poorest and the world's truest entrepreneurs. There's so much innovation potential here that sort of excites us. Two great examples that we found of this. The first one is from a company called Farm Force. What they've done is it's in Kenya, and they've created a service that they provide weather forecasts to feature phones, and where they provide not just weather forecasts, but also crop prices. And this is completely life-changing stuff for these farmers who have to walk however many miles to find this kind of information out, and we just wouldn't be able to find it. It's completely changing lives. And similarly, the example on the right there's a fantastic example of talk about data, using data creatively. What IBM did on the right there, they went to the Ivory Coast, and they actually found using cellular data in the Ivory Coast, they found out how people are traveling from town to town. And using that data, they were able to plot the most effective bus routes in the Ivory Coast. How amazing is that? How game-changing is that? What a fantastic use of data. And for the next video case study I'm going to share is about music. And I think everyone talks about reimagining. People like Mary Mika. Well in Africa, there are some innovative entrepreneurs who are reimagining. Taking iTunes, where iTunes doesn't actually cater for what people actually need. So a company called Mdundo is bypassing record labels altogether and connecting consumers directly with the artists to buy content. So sub-Saharan innovation is bringing consumerism on the most basic devices and redesigning business models, value chains, and consumer touchpoints.
Maza nilipatana na udem akanishwa kuna ma-MC wakali, so nikampeleka Decimal akapatana na Punit, alafu msioka akanipea hii track, twende kazi. Frasha ni mkali, nianzaga mziki tuna na kitari, akajikanisha basi tuna dakitari. Si unajua Frasha na kuwaga dakitari, but mtaani mini ordinary, si wagetikari, boss minare. Ndo maana tunashindaga kelele, wanataka mpango kando ati ni wadare. Boss, hey, ni shamare, niko mdogo tu kwenye gari. Sio sare, nikisonga mbele wako pale. Si tuko kwenye club tuna pale. Palelezo, yani pale. Narusha mizuka maishani mwangu.
Fantastic service there. And for my last case study that I'm going to share with you today, I think it's probably worth saying, and even though I've chosen to share some more case studies from developing markets where the majority of mobile consumers are, you might be sitting there thinking, well, how is this relevant for me? I work in a more developed market. Is this kind of creative thinking relevant for me and my clients? It's very nice to see this kind of stuff, but is it really going to resonate? Is it really going to achieve my agency's or brand's objectives? Well, I think the answer is a resonating yes. The next case study I'm going to share with you actually won the Mobile Grand Prix at the Cannes Lions Award a few months back, and I'll share a bit more with you about that now.
Public schools, textbooks have become a burden.
Sa laki na sa dami ng mga libro, nadi-deform tuloy physically ang mga bata.
Pagdating sa school, pagod na sila, mind nila hindi na nag-work.
But while developed countries have solved this problem through tablets and e-readers, for these families, even the cheapest models cost more than their whole monthly income. In fact, the only gadgets most of them own are old analog mobile phones used mainly for texting. Then we realized, what if we could use these millions of old phones to create a new brand of textbook? Smart, the country's largest telecom, took its mission to make text light and easy further than ever, as we introduced Smart Textbooks. Over 6 months, we collaborated with respected textbook publishers to condense official school texts, from in-class lesson guides to homework exercises, into 160-character text messages. Smart then programmed these texts into the inboxes of thousands of inactive surplus SIM cards, which were then repackaged into new smart textbooks. We launched them in partner schools that needed it most, where the simple and in fact low-tech solution made a profound sustainable impact. It turned even the oldest phones into a new kind of e-reader, and old SIM cards into a new brand of textbook. So less effort was spent carrying and storing books, and far more effort learning from them. And with petitions and pledges from more schools and education sector members, Smart Textbooks is going even further, with plans already underway for more subjects and grade levels, kits so schools themselves can reproduce smart textbooks for free, and best of all, a rollout across the entire Philippines.
Well, we always like to be at the cutting edge of an innovation, particularly relevant innovation. I want to see how this thing moves forward.
Balang araw, mabibigyan natin sila lahat ng tablets, pero sa ngayon, dapat simulan natin. Ito ang pinaka-perfect na simula itong proyekto ng Smart Net.
Pag ganito na po yung workbook namin, hindi na po ako mabibigatan.
Fulfilling Smart's mission to make every kind of text light and easy for all.
What an amazing story, and that a campaign like that can get such accolades at something like Cannes Lions. Don't get me wrong, you know, at Joule we enjoy making shiny iPhone apps as much as the next. You know, we even create the ITV app in the UK, which is, you know, streaming video and TV. But just this is the kind of stuff that really excites us. Come up with creative ideas that can reach the mass market, the mass market of people who are using feature phones globally. So. You know, I think that, you know, just to summarize, I think it's worth saying that please do overinvest in the most underinvested mass media channel in the world, and fuse the emotional storytelling with the branded utility where you can, because that's where the best campaigns are happening at the moment. Create and serve the content that is tailored and informed by the richest data, to extend and embellish that message to make the most of it. And finally, build and employ your creative teams and hire agencies with divergent skill sets and apply these to developing market entrepreneurial mindset. You know, just to finish, I'll say that, you know, to me, mobile is the most exciting creative canvas that we have in the world. I think that brands and agencies need to embrace a new way of thinking. Yes, good creative is good creative, but mobile is a completely different way of thinking about that creativity. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. That was an amazing presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I've seen a tweet which was very clearly showing a quintessence from some of the things you said. I just didn't get the name of the tweeter. Thanks for it, by the way. Finally, somebody talking about mobile and how to add value to people's life rather than to ROI. So that was an amazing example, and thank you very much for this.